Okay, we're ready to go.
Cool. Where are we live at right now? Twitch TV/Indris?
Twitch TV / #progression, actually.
Oh,
Oh my god.
Yep.
shit.
So we are 100% live. We're ready to go. I've got it recording locally, so in case we want to refer to this in the future. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of Raid Week Wednesday. Tonight
It's Wednesday, and it's
Raid
Raid Week.
Yes, it is.
It's a raid week?
Yes, it is. Tonight we're going to cover some topics regarding our classes. We're not going to go too in depth because we're going to save those for separate nights. So, you know, the people that we have in the guild that are exceptional in their class are able to cover in detail and answer any questions that you guys might have. But tonight we're going to focus on patch 6.0 specifically and what we think is going to come in Warlords of Draenor.
The Iron Tide, my friends. 6.0. This patch that changed, I feel like, everything to Mr. Pandaria so far.
We've taken to calling WoW before yesterday. It's now Bitch WoW.
Yep, that it is. Bitch
And
WoW.
we're in current WoW right now.
Yep.
It's completely different.
So let's just start off and let's jump right into it. We're gonna go over some stuff, the big new features that just popped out at us. I think the first thing we need to talk about is obviously the new character models.
Character models, my friends. My gnome is looking awesome today.
Yeah, Rady, he was originally this stripper-looking night elf, and now he's a stripper-looking gnome. ugliest
Purple Janus.
transmog I've seen yet, but I'm telling you, man, I can't wait to change into a human because they look fantastic. I'm loving humans and orcs especially. It's so good to actually see these character models actually have facial expressions, because for the longest time, I'm an RPer, for the longest time, they had absolutely no expression, and immersion was just non-existent at that point. But I'm really excited for these kinds of changes, and I think they did a really, really, really good job. And I'm looking forward to Blood Elves, because I believe Blizzard also said that they're working on it. So that's something to look forward to in hopefully the near future.
I like to think that Blood Elves are the hipster kids of the expansion. They're too cool for model updates.
Did the Worgans get one too?
Worgans look great.
I know that the humans got updated. I just didn't see the Worgans specifically.
No,
yet.
did Worgans get updated?
Yeah, go look at a female Worgan. They look amazing.
I thought they only updated vanilla and BC ones.
No, man, the females look completely different.
That one I did not know, actually. That's
Me neither. Yeah.
wow. I might have to take my character's gear off to take a look at that.
Yeah, go just pull up a character creation and check out the Worgans. It's nice. It's good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. So obviously with the release of 6.0 and soon to be Warlords of Draenor, we're losing our all-time favorite add-on OQ.
Rest in peace.
Rip in pieces. But
I think our favorite add-on might be a stretch. It was a
Daily boss
necessity.
mods right there.
It was a necessity.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. OQ was pretty nice to be able to find that garage group on Monday morning, 3 a.m. before servers went down. You know, you just hop into OQ and boom, get it down with that one-shot 580 group.
It added diversity, I feel like, in the times you play. I feel like if you're on an Eastern server, you're going to get people a lot of the time on an Eastern time zone. And just people are raiding on an Eastern kind of schedule. Whereas you get those people who are all added in the Pacific. You get people from Australia. You get people almost from just completely different parts of the world, essentially, to raid at any time. I mean, to see what happens now with OQ gone, I mean, that'll be interesting. I'm going to miss raids personally on my own time, let alone everything I did.
The reason why it's going away is because Blizzard implemented a revamped kind of group finder and a pre-made group finder into our dungeon journal or dungeon finder when you hit the I button, and it's basically like OQ. Even though we had the version beforehand with the what was it, raid finder, right? When you hit or other raids, that's what it was. It's not quite OQ, just because with OQ you were able to, queue up for a group and say, hey, I exist, I'm interested in this, and then even it got to the point where they where Tiny updated it, and we were able to even put personalized notes into the thing. So hey, I might be a low item level, but I've got this weapon that carries my DPS. So
I understand that. I was just it's more along, like I said, I'm just waiting to see what Blizzard has specifically, what's to come with it. I mean, it's brand new to Blizzard. Sometimes we all say things they implement in the game are either a hit or miss.
Yeah.
And today, I mean, like or this week actually with this upcoming patch, a lot of stuff was changed. Especially that everyone was used to OQ. It's just going to be interesting seeing how well this adapts into the game, and maybe it might be completely 10 times easier than OQ actually. So
yep, and that's one thing Blizzard, and not just Blizzard, just like game developers in general, are really taking away from the community. Is it not taking away in the negative sense, and more in like kind of taking advice, I guess, from specifically, modding communities in games that are heavily modded, or games that have tons of, like a huge add-on community, is that they're noticing that all these add-ons have such popularity because it adds so many QOL changes to the game, the quality of life, and players find it almost a necessity to actually be able to play the game comfortably and be able to access everything easily. And Blizzard really is taking advantage of the whole fact that they kind of do it for you. They've got the whole theory down. Just execute it on your own terms, change what you really didn't like, from the business standpoint of view of the whole thing, and implement it yourself. And that's really what they're doing. And they've done it in the past, and they're doing it more and more frequently now, which I think is a huge thing. But I mean, like I said, OQ was a fantastic add-on, but it always brought that kind of negative side. That back in, I don't know if you remember back in Wrath when gear score became a thing, and you had like those groups who are like, yep, 6,300 gear score, get the fuck out. We don't want you in our group. And OQ, you'd have people to queue up. You would set a certain item level limit that they'd have to, or prerequisite that they would have to meet before they were even able to queue up for the group, which sometimes you might be the best player in the world, but you're on like one of your ults that has like no gear, but you can still out DPS somebody with like twice the gear. So
now one of the changes that Blizzard put into their basically throwing OQ into the UI is that you can set an item level requirement when you set up a group, but it can't be higher than what you are currently.
Right.
So you can't have these people saying 570 item level. Oh, you're 5. I'm 540, but
so they're not
wink,
looking
wink, nudge, nudge
to get
no
carried.
carries.
Yeah, exactly.
No carries allowed.
So if you're gonna say you want 590, you got to be 590.
No carry.
Yeah. So let's go over another thing we've got here is that the first thing that I noticed as soon as I logged into the game, I pressed the B button.
I was gonna say the same thing. Yep.
Because
check your money, check your bags.
Check your money, check your bags, dude. I went to the mail. I had capped out on JP, and I was sitting with like, I think it was like close to 3 or a little bit over 3,000 gold in the mail from that conversion, which was really, really nice. I knew Blizzard always does, like when they're removing a currency from the game, they always compensate with a monetary in a monetary form, in-game currency, of course. And then that with 6.0 coming out, not every add-on is updated immediately. Some of the add-ons, they're kind of ahead of the curve where they've been updating and changing things according to the beta or the PTR realm. So
we had to almost raid Old School last week, where we had to communicate vocally. It was wild.
It was not fun. And not last week, yesterday.
Whatever.
And a lot of people weren't even, they couldn't get their DBMs to work, even though DBM was one of those few mods that kind of work right off the bat. I know DBM, SCADA. I don't know if Recount's working because I switched to SCADA. My Voodoo's working, got Bartender working, and Shadow Uniframes. Those are some of the big ones that I know for a fact are working. But I had LUI, so my entire thing was completely revamped, including my bags. So I no longer have this just one neat looking bag. I've got this ugly 5-bag system over here, but Blizzard implemented their own kind of cleanup system where you just press a button, restacks everything, organizes it. You can even set your bags to you can just right click and set it. You want this type of item to only be in this bag, like rather than having. I think it almost kind of takes away from the whole profession only bags, like some's for just herbs and stuff like that. Even though you have the benefit of the much larger container size though from the profession specific, but you're no longer limited to that, and you can always just be able to keep your bags organized in that way. Because I know when, later on in this expansion, as I got closer and closer towards WoD, my bags was just getting more full, more full, and more full. My void storage is full. My bank's full. I have an alt guild bank that's filled. Granted, it's with gray items because I have a nice collection. But everything was full, and it was just such a freaking mess. But it's pretty useful, and the search mechanic is nice too.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that it's not only the big stuff that they're focusing on, it's almost stuff you wouldn't even expect. I mean, bags, I wasn't expecting anything like this to come out with the patch. Maybe with the expansion, something down the road, something like that. But it's always nice to see Blizzard focusing a lot on the small stuff just as well as the big stuff.
Yep.
And what do you guys think of the bag cleanup option? Heard some mixed things, how it just like throws everything off a little bit.
I don't know. I like it. Like I said, I had LUI, so I had the same exact feature with my add-on, but now it's just, implemented into the game. I like it. I like keeping everything organized, and generally my go-to bag when I go to look for something is going to be the 16-slot backpack. That's the first thing that I look at.
Yep.
So being able to find, everything gets pushed to whatever other bags, and it tries to clear out the backpack first. Like, it wants that one to be empty over everything else. So whenever I get something new, I immediately just look to that first bag where my eyes are basically kind of trained to go to. And boom, it's right there every time. So I like it, personally.
No, I agree 100%. Like I said, simple stuff. Add some updates. You make me happy. Either way. I like it either way. The nice thing is, it makes me almost want to use my bags for more stuff. Like, I wasn't too big with gathering on my characters. I wasn't too big of doing all the other things, and a lot of the stuff I pushed off into my bank. Now I have such more of an option to kind of organize my bag. Specifically, I don't feel like I'm never have to worry about my bank too much at all anymore, unless I just put stuff in there, just like almost like an attic or a basement.
Yep. And so what we're going to jump into next is something that's, I feel like, confuses a lot of people right now. Because, the way Blizzard explained it is, like, basically as simple as you can get it. But now we've got the 4 different difficulty tiers compared to the, 4, 5, 6 different, technically different tiers. Now we have Raid Finder, which is 10 players up to 30 players. The difficulty always scales. Every single difficulty, except for Mythic, is now flexible. So the next tier past Raid Finder would be Normal, which is also 10 to 30, Heroic, which is also 10 to 30, and then Mythic. Now, Heroic turned into Mythic, Normal turned into Heroic, and Raid Finder is still Raid Finder, and Flexible is now Normal. And there's no more just a flex difficulty. Every difficulty is flexible, except for Mythic. And I think last night we were actually having almost like an argument at that point. And now each difficulty also has its own lockout, which is nice.
Yeah, that's a really good change. It was we had the confusing moment of people that were in normal gear logging on, and suddenly they're being like Heroic Warforged, and I was like, oh my god, I'm suddenly amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm just as amazing. It's not any more or less.
Yep. And Blizzard stated that the difficulty levels and the raid sizes have been completely restructured for not only the expansion and what's to come, but also for Siege of Orgrimmar. However, I was talking to Kirby last night, and apparently Garrosh is like ridiculously hard because they messed up on some of the scaling or something, because he's got way too much health and we're not doing enough damage, and the fight is completely imba.
Yeah,
So
I can see that.
I'm looking forward to hopefully hitting him tonight and see what happens.
Yeah, and not to mention like what happened now. What's like you were saying about Warlords, what's to come and everything with this new raid structure. How do you feel about 30-mans? The option of having 30 people instead of just 25 at the cap.
I think it's pretty intense. I like it.
I think it's cool because I feel like even back when we were doing 25-mans in the old guild, I think we always had the issue where we still needed to sub in people. So being able to just kind of just say, hey, fuck it, get in here. It'll make it kind of like we're able to include more people. And as far as Mythic goes, Obviously, that's what we're going to be shooting for, but I think we're going to be in heroics first. Like, once we come out of heroic dungeons, we'll be going into heroic, so 10 to 30 people. And obviously, we already have bench players, and, like your brother or Naxxinus and stuff like that. And, maybe they can't make every single night to the raid, but they still want to experience the content or whatever they can experience while we're actually doing it and while it's kind of progression in a sense. I think it's nice because we'll have our 20 people for a Mythic group that we know are going to be there, and then, we won't have to stress about, we need to replace them because they were here with us last night, but they're not here with us today. We don't have to worry about that because it's flexible, and I think that was a really smart move on Blizzard's part, because I think specifically for our guild, when we're at that 20-man level, we're going to have 10, 15 other people that are looking to get into the Mythic group too, that aren't going to be able to really raid. And when it was strictly 25, we had those 25 people and still had those 10 or 15 extra people that couldn't raid at all. But now we'll have those extra 5 slots to say, hey, get in here, or those extra 10 slots.
The
they're
fact
kind of...
that it's on the fly now is the big thing. So you don't, if you have 12 people for a fight and then bump them to 17 for the next, and it's not going to sit around waiting to get the perfect raid group. You can just go outside Mythic.
Yep.
Obviously, there is the kind of, you have to always keep in mind, you have to have the good healer to raid size ratio. Like right now, our comp for Mythic is 2 tanks, 5 healers, 5 melee, and 8 ranged. So for the 20-man squad, we have 5 healers. So if we're going to end up going to a 30-man squad, we might want 6, maybe 7 healers. So that's the only thing that you kind of have to keep in the back of your mind, because, yeah, it scales to that many people, but it also expects you to keep the general same ratio of healers, DPS, and tanks to be able to successfully kill the boss. So that's the only thing that I don't think Blizzard can really figure out. It's not something to figure out, but it's just one thing that people are going to have to be wary of when they go and just adding extra people to the group.
I think we can just have Rady single heal everything
I'm down for that.
from here on.
It might work.
He's a holy priest. That's fine.
So let's go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to add with the raid structures. I mean, you see the people all the time on the forums asking for those old 40-man raids to come back. They want to take a gander at those kind of things again. Maybe it's stuff they didn't get to experience, or maybe in general they just got to experience so much of it that they loved it. I mean, 40 players. I don't think we might not ever see that again. But
Except
to see that
in
we're
the anniversary event coming up next month.
Oh, of course. I mean, anything like that. I like how they do bring stuff like that back. But 30 players, we're getting close to it. So, I mean, the possibility is always there. I know when I was in Vanilla, I did a little bit of 40-man raiding. When Molten Core, when you just get together 40 people to just do a raid, it was fun.
Yep.
Like that stuff, if you actually had the people together, that was fun. So it's nice to see numbers close to it.
And I've got a lot of friends of mine that played back in Vanilla, and, you always get those elitist guys that are like, oh, Vanilla's the hardest, Well, from what my friends have told me, that the majority of the bosses were just tank and spank, have super simple mechanics, and the actual hard part to the game was finding 40 people to get into your fucking group to do the boss.
It wasn't that Vanilla was hard, it was just that all the quality of life changes that are in the game now weren't around in Vanilla, so like it didn't hold your hand.
Right.
You had to like really pay attention to where to go and what to do, and it was a rude game. It was rude.
It was harder finding 40 people to raid though. I mean, honestly, like that was the hardest part about it. Getting 40 actual guys to sit down, come all together at the same time and raid. But I mean, when it happened, it was fun. Difficulty and just the fun side of it. Just overall, it was just a good time.
Yep. And so let's go over some of the character and class changes that have been implemented with 6.0 in preparation for WoD. Obviously, the biggest thing everyone was looking for, and I think is almost kind of a relief, because I mean, hitting 8mm Stormbolts was nice, but I don't know, it almost got a little overwhelming sometimes, and so I think we'll start with the stat squish. What do you guys think?
I'm into it. I like it. I mean, it was cool, having almost 1 million health, but it gets it got a little out of hand.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I really liked I started playing in late BC, had no idea what I was doing, couldn't even figure out the game until Wrath hit. so like I had kind of almost no idea what I was doing until that point, but I do recall raiding at that point, and I remember we were trying to like see how high we could get this tank of ours, his health up, and we actually had a bunch of people. There was like 35 people in this raid group. We were sitting in Dalaran, and he was a bear druid. Had him pop all his cooldowns with all raid buffs up. Had him get all these different pots and food buffs and elixirs, anything he could get to get his stam up, and pop like his survival instincts, I think it's called. And we barely managed to get him over 100k HP, and that's a mix of PvE and PvP gear, because at the time the Wrathful gear was like super high on stamina, because that's how you balance PvP, more health. So like, I mean, being around those numbers again kind of almost brings me back a little bit to those days, and I think it's nice to see. I feel like the numbers are a hell of a lot more manageable now than what they were.
And you're still hitting hard, and it's, you know, hitting the training dummy and like Stormwind, you're still hitting it pretty hard.
Yeah, no, it's not like, I don't think it took away anything from the game. If anything, I do agree with Blizzard in the fact that they feel that this stat squish is going to improve the game significantly, and I completely agree. And like I said, I feel like the numbers are a lot more manageable. And I know from a theory crafting point of view, when I'm sitting here doing math on certain things, that only having 4-digit numbers is a hell of a lot easier than, 6-7-digit numbers.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it kind of keeps away from, I mean, even if we never had these expansions with these high numbers, these numbers to us would be high no matter what. I mean, we have always adapted since early on. I mean, thousands, 2000s, those kind of things were just normal numbers. And when you got those 3,000 crits, maybe back with like an aim shot or something, you're like, oh my God, back in like vanilla or something like that. You're amazed at the numbers you could do back then. Yeah, these expansions added, I mean, they added a lot of numbers. It's going to be nice to see things a little bit more relaxed. I mean, if you're looking at numbers, like you said, I mean, it's going to be a little bit more, it's going to be easier to kind of calculate things, do different things with these numbers where they're so small. Like, smaller numbers is just easier to calculate, easier to solve.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of funny because last week I was laughing at everyone, because me and Clarissa are the ones dealing, 1.5 million DPS at the start of a Gary fight, and now it's like, me and him are laughing at people because we're doing 11k DPS. I think that's quite a jump, but obviously, like I said before with the whole Garrosh thing, I'm not 100% sure on that. That's just what Kirby told me, but we'll find out probably tonight or Sunday that it obviously added in some complications where some things weren't scaled properly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it'll all be fixed in due time, and I think it was smart of Blizzard to release this as this whole stat squish as a pre-patch, because it gives them we've got 4 weeks until the expansion, so it gives them 4 weeks to figure the whole thing out, because it might be different content that we'll be seeing in WoD, but the whole general idea of everything will be the same. So they'll be able to apply things that they learned about the stat squish in this expansion to the next.
Yeah, of course. And well, on top of that, though, on top of these numbers, it's not even just numbers that was even released with this content. I mean, I'm used to, especially as a priest, I'm used to seeing agility, strength, intellect, and spirit. Spirit's not even part of the main tree anymore. That got bumped down. We saw a bunch of new secondary stats like bonus armor, multi-strike, versatility. They completely got rid of hit and expertise. I mean, I was shocked about that, too. This changes a lot of stuff, not even just the numbers itself, but healers have a different kind of role to fill, because they're not supposed to be focusing on padding and overhealing now. Now you have to actually settle down, focus on your specific job. Same with the DPS during a fight. I mean, there's the crowd control mechanics now. They've been reduced. I don't know if you read up on that or anything. All of our abilities have been pruned. I mean, the jump itself is amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
On top of that, though, I'm interested, back on that multi-strike, versatility, and the bonus armor, those stats. I'm interested to see what happens with these classes now that those new bonus stats were added.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we were looking at the those DPS charts that they released the other day, and I think a huge reason why Fury is just so strong right now. I'm not going to get into detail with it, because obviously we're going to save that for the Warrior talk tomorrow night. But I think versatility and multi-strike and it is just going to be like absolutely massive for warriors, being that having the ability to use two-handed weapons and the weapon damage being so strong that it already makes multi-strike stronger than any other classes, because we have two-handed weapons, where everybody only gets one, and their weapon damage is literally half of ours, with auto attacks. But versatility for Fury Warriors specifically is just a second mastery, because our mastery just increases our overall damage done while we're enraged. And then with the addition of Unquenchable Thirst, even though right now I don't think it's a really viable choice compared to Sudden Death, having no cooldown on Bloodthirst means you're basically, as long as you're meeting your threshold for crit, you're basically guaranteed to be enraged 100% of the fight.
Yeah.
That's some deep warrior talk.
Yeah, it is.
Hold on that. In general with the classes, to be honest, I'd like to see that debate for warriors with like multi-strike and different things like that. The more specific you get into these abilities, we don't know what's to come with the next content, essentially, when we're going to be raiding a Warlords of Draenor. So maybe survivability is a crucial part of a fight, and Leech is going to be important for melee. Or maybe an AoE side, multi-strike will be beneficial. Although if you did read multi-strike more specifically, it's a 2 chances at delivering an attack or heal, but with 30% of the normal value.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it might be beneficial to have that, but to see this specific, it's hard to see what Leech is going to be able to offer, being able to do a portion of your damage and healing, as to healing yourself back. There's going to be some.
I think
pretty cool.
Personally, I think versatility is just going to overall be the best stat in this next expansion for raiding, especially when raiders are first getting into a content tier. Like when we're first getting into tier 17, having your players with a high versatility percentage, reducing the overall damage taken is absolutely massive. Because like you said, you might value survivability over certain other things. I think in a progression standpoint of view, survivability is the most important, regardless of what tier, regardless of what stat the game has. Because if you just die, then you can't perform. You can't deal your damage. You can't heal your players. You can't tank the boss. So survivability is the number one priority in the game. And I know we experienced our issues with certain fights like that, like say Guildbreaker Black Fuse over there, when we were first doing them on Heroic a couple months back, that our biggest issue was people were dying to things on the ground, or people were dying to mines or whatever it was. And there was the enraging timer was non-existent. So I mean, there's no reason to have to worry about our players focusing on dealing damage, as much damage as they can, to beat others on the meters. Like obviously, with me and Clarissa and Soul Candy and Rip Lights Charge, but between the four of us, obviously we have that the competitiveness in between us, so we're always trying to battle for the top DPS spot. So obviously, we had a share of dumb deaths just because we're trying to beat the next person. But I think one thing that not only us, but just every guild in general is really going to have to emphasize, if you've experienced issues with players dying, is really just emphasize: don't die. Focus on living. Forget about your damage. If you can get damage in, cool. But as long as you're staying alive, the boss will eventually die.
Exactly. Depending on rage and timers and different things like that, of course.
Right.
But we've noticed over time, especially, that those timers really don't matter. Survivability is still very important.
Right. And I know there was a few bosses where we had to worry about enraged timers. Like the first time we killed Noru, we hit the enraged timer. I remember that bug actually. AJ, I don't think you were with us. But basically, it was back when we were doing 25 man, and it was our first look at Heroic Noru, because we were originally just 25 and then eventually went into 10. We're on Heroic Noru, killed him at the very last second as the Novas go off. He kills us and dies to dots before he despawned. So he dies. We got loot.
But we still had to redo it, though.
We had to redo it because Noru was still standing at the door and wouldn't let us in.
Yep. We didn't even get the kill technically.
We got the achievement. We got the achievement,
we
but we couldn't proceed into Shout of Pride. So we contacted a GM. He let us keep the loot, and he just said, "Kill it again." We killed it again, got double loot for the night, and went into Shout of Pride. So that was a really cool.
All right.
Night.
Nice.
So obviously, certain fights like Norushen, where at least the progression level, when you're not stacked on all this gear, that the enraged timers is going to be an issue that you're going to have to worry about. And maybe sometimes some of the players that are going to perform well and be able to still survive, but also focus as much as they can on the boss, particularly like in pre 6.0, Warrior's survivability was just so strong, and obviously I'm one of the top damage in the group, so when we had issues like that, or like on
humble brag
on Nazgrim, where we needed to beat enraged timers or something like that, you'd have these high survivability, top damage dealing classes focus the boss more, and rather than help out with ads or something like that, just because you need to beat the enraged timer, and when you have somebody dealing as much damage as they do, that could be the make and break for the fight. So I think the big emphasis in the next expansion, like I said, not only for us, specifically us, but not only us, but every guild that has any issues with not beating enraged timer, or with not killing bosses because people are dying and not having to worry about enraged timers, is you really just need to emphasize survivability right now.
On top of that, man, definitely on top of that with survivability, just noticing the amount of different stats that are going to be coming out for survivability. I mean, you have your versatility, which is going to reduce damage taken. Tanks have bonus armor, which is included in there. And then you have another thing like avoidance. And on top of avoidance, I mean, we'll get into it a little bit further with the new raid content, different things like that, all those kind of talks. But, I mean, I'm sitting here wondering, with the new talent changes, with the new specific spells, I mean, healers now have silence. I mean, you have to go into your talents and specifically get crowd control abilities now and pick the right ones. And then you see avoidance and versatility. You see all those different things. It's going to be interesting seeing what's to come with these new raids and how all of these stats will actually affect us in a raid. Maybe avoiding or stacking avoidance in a raid fight that requires a lot of avoidance needed to prevent so much of that AoE damage or different things like that. Or just the versatility to soak up enough damage while you're DPSing, different things like that as well. I've even heard, for example, that priests will be used as tanks somehow with Clarity of Will, one of our level 100 talents coming in the future, with different stats on top of that ability and top of just being able to tank heal, all those kind of things. I mean, it's going to be nice to see what's to come with all of these different stat changes.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing those the clothy tanks again, because like back in Wrath we had our mage tanking like Lady Death Whisper and stuff like that. So yep. I'm excited to see if Blizzard really does implement those changes into boss fights where you don't really have to be a tank to actually tank. So kind of getting people to experience other roles, even though that's not really what the class or specialization is built for, I think adds some good diversity to the game.
Yeah, they're actually focusing, I feel like the survivability side, they're really focusing on it, this expansion. They're focusing on players, they're trying to encourage people, you need to be able to survive mechanics, because they don't really want people to be able to rush down a boss, burn it down extremely fast and call it a day and move on, maybe not even getting to experience a lot of the phases that they wanted you to experience, or stay through a prolonged fight like they wanted you to stay through a prolonged fight. Even for tanks, I mean, on the mixed shield side of things, you guys don't even have vengeance anymore. You have resolve, and resolve, I mean, it doesn't increase your damage anymore, but that increases your tank self healing and your absorption based on the amount of damage you've taken over time. So that's another huge thing that I saw added to the game that kind of makes me believe that this game is really going to become completely about survivability and being able to outlast a boss fight rather than burn it down as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. With I was just reading a little bit about Resolve before we started, and it really does make me think that that's something Blizzard really wants to emphasize in this next X-Pack, because not only from a standpoint of view from a developer, where you look at it and you see basically people are kind of racing to just get bosses down fast, and after this whole expansion, because obviously you want to get them down fast. We've had this content for almost a year and a half. We're sick of it. So I mean, with the addition to, or with the changes to Vengeance and the addition of the bonus armor and the versatility to reduce damage taken, I think they really are going to emphasize it when you go and actually fight bosses, because when you think of Warlords of Draenor and us fighting Warlords of Draenor, all these big name orcs that we've heard about and that we might have seen while we're questing, but maybe we've never seen them as Alliance players, that when we go to fight them, they're meant to be like some of the strongest fighters to ever walk the face of Azeroth. So from our point of view, it's just like we're not trying to race to just beat them into the dirt. We need to like play it smart. We need to survive as long as we can. We need to avoid dying and just kind of outsmart him in a sense. When you look at it almost as if you were kind of role playing it in a sense, like we're not the ones with the upper hand in the situation. He is. So we need to figure out how to not die rather than to how to kill him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I wanted to see stuff like that. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm tired of being able to go into these fights and melt them down as quick as possible and just move on. I'm here to experience what I'm meant to experience, the content, the specific thing that I strive on in a video game. I just want to keep seeing content. If the PvE content is kind of planned out from A, B, and C, this is exactly what I need to do to kill this boss. That's the kind of stuff I love, because there's more to a fight than just, okay, we just need to burn them this fast or we'd wipe. Like, I don't want to see that all the time. I want to be able to go through an entire fight knowing that so much happened and we earned that kill.
I mean, a DPS race can be fine, but when every boss turns into a DPS race, it gets boring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so from what I've been looking up of the early raids, they all seem extremely mechanic heavy, which is going to be fun.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun. And I think whereas Siege, after 6 months everyone's got it down, and then the last 6 or maybe 4 or 6 months is just farm, and you see a lot of these guilds that have had it on farm, they're just not really raiding right now. They're not really doing anything. They're just kind of waiting for the next expansion. I think Blizzard doesn't want that to happen, because when you have such a mechanic heavy fight, it's not something that you even, a lot of the times you can't even race through it, because you need to follow the mechanics. Otherwise the boss will die, and sometimes certain mechanics won't let you go past certain points in the boss's health pool before you complete a mechanic.
Yep.
Or if you do something incorrectly, maybe the boss heals, or maybe the boss gets an invulnerability. So like with Siegecrafter, for example, if you race him down, you try and 100 to 0 him, you're not going to be able to do that quickly, because he gets the buff if you don't kill the shit on the belts. So you need to follow mechanics there. When we were doing AJ, when we were doing BWD earlier, when we'd have Onyxia down to 1 health, but if we didn't kill the ads, she didn't die. And I think that's something Blizzard should implement, because I think that keeps the boss fights interesting. If you're forcing players to kind of follow mechanics in order to succeed, rather than just hit things harder and harder.
Yeah.
Now, as far as boss fights go, thank you, the Lord Jesus Christ, they removed having to stand behind the boss, because I hated that shit. I was so sick of being like on Thok's foot and like the whole raid having to stay there and just glancing with all my auto attacks, because my auto attacks they're in the top 5 most damage dealing abilities or sources that I've got as a Fury Warrior. So to know that all my auto attack damage is cut in half was just infuriating. So the whole time I'm just sitting here relying on abilities, obviously popping in a berserker stance and wild striking with all the extra rage from Deafening Screech was nice, but I still auto attack. And with the removal of that, I think it also adds a bit to positioning, because I know on Garrosh, the way you position him on red at the top of the circle, I still had to stand behind him and then had to move away when Ironstar came. I couldn't just stand behind him the whole time, so that's a lot of loss and damage when you're literally just idle. And I don't know. I think it was the right choice to remove that, because I don't really understand the point of having it in the first place. Maybe there was something, when the developer saw that it needed to be implemented, and that they fixed it with this upcoming patch, or with the upcoming expansion, and that's why they removed it. I'm not sure, but I'm glad it's gone.
It made sense with certain classes, like rogues. and like feral druids attacking from behind, that made sense. And sneaking up on something is a mechanic of what they do. But like a warrior or an enhanced shaman, there's no reason like a warrior should be having to be run behind something.
Right. Well, I mean, feral druids and rogues, though, they had that implemented in their own spells, because only some spells you could only use from behind. So, I mean, and like when you think of a boss fight, you're not really sneaking up on bosses. Like, I understand that from a PvP point of view, why an ability can only be used from behind. Sure, you want to sneak up on other players to assassinate them, stuff like that. But when it comes to a boss, I don't see the reason to try and assassinate a boss. You can't assassinate, a billion health. So I don't think the only thing that can do that in the game is Stormbolt. That's it.
Yeah. No, I mean, you and your Stormbolts, by the way. Jesus, you saved me plenty of times with those things. But on a lighter note, just these changes themselves, like, this is encouraging talk just to hear that. I mean, we're all pleased with these changes so far. This expansion alone, I feel like I guess what you call it, the Triforce of roles in any MMO, this DPS, tank, healing role. I mean, they're kind of fine-tuning it back to the true role of every one of those specific classes, essentially. Especially with healers. I mean, like, you guys considering to talk a lot about your DPS and a lot about your tanking, but when this healing game comes around, I mean, just for example, like the smart heals that we used to do, Discipline Priest, when they healed and did damage and Atonement, those heals would hit the lowest targets and bring them up. Now it just hits the targets closest to you. So even if someone is at 100 HP and they need the biggest heal possible, and you're Atonement healing at the time and they just get cracked down, they're almost dead, it might heal the guy that has
full health,
99% life, and just put them up that 1%. It's nice to see that they're making players have to really heal now. They're bringing healing back.
And not only, like, when you say, like, it's making players heal, I think it's really making players have to really think wise about their decision and really analyze mechanics to the point that, like, say, let's take Nazgrim, for example, because that's a fight that we're all familiar with, that the tanks on Heroic have to deal with Execute. Now, Execute does, like, what is it, like 100% of your health if you don't have mitigation up, and that means that at, like, say we don't have Atonement healing anymore, or the smart healing, and you've got the tank full health, seems fine, but Execute's coming up, and you see this other guy you just kind of want to top off. If you go and try and just top this guy off, and your tank gets hit with the Execute, and you don't heal him up, and he gets hit by the next auto attack, that I think it kind of puts more pressure on the healers, and I think it almost makes it like a fun game in a sense that they're adding a difficulty in that kind of way, and that you have to be smart about your decision making and how you're going to use your GCDs. Because I know they really emphasize that in PvP. Like, PvP is like, you cannot waste a GCD, and if you make a wrong mistake, that can mean you or one of your teammates dies. And they're implementing the same thing into PvE, and I think that's kind of a smart move. It's going to make the game a lot more challenging from a healer standpoint of view, and I'm excited to see what it does.
Let me be honest right now. When I just personally experienced healing last night for the first time in this upcoming update, I had the time of my life. Just in general with the Protector's fight, for example, I two-healed it with our Resto Shaman, and that was the most intense fight. I was expecting, hey, I'm going to go in here, no problem. I'm 585 item level. I mean, for the expansion, I'm like fully Mythic geared. I should be able to blow through this. Even with that gear, that fight became so incredibly hard because of this new smart cast healing system and having really to focus my discipline heals, the big ones, on the guys taking the most damage, the AoE heals. Everything just had to come together. Even with the cast that I have to cast Prayer Mending now, different things like that. The game is definitely going to improve if the healers want to have more challenging fights. Like, if they thought this expansion was challenging, they might want to quit healing. If they don't really like what they experienced this expansion, it's only going to get harder at that point. And on top of that, though, with everything else that's going on, I mean, tanks, they're seeing a little bit, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard a lot of different things about the aggro right now. I don't know if it's more difficult. I don't know if it was just maybe yesterday that was causing some issues. But I heard that's getting a little bit more difficult for tanks to actually have to kind of earn their spot. They just can't walk up to a boss and beat it a couple times and say, hey, it's mine. No, they have to work to keep that aggro, and they have to work to keep tanking, and they have to build a resolve. and they have to go through a bunch more different steps than they used to. Freaking DPS looks incredible now. I mean, like, seeing DPS, it feels like there's more. You guys got more going on. More specifically, I can't even just say DPS, healers and DPS, and I don't even know specifically too, but the crowd controls that are coming out with now, they're trying to completely cut crowd control in half. They're trying to get rid of so much that, because they believe this expansion was so filled with crowd control that it's just cut down so much. You guys read up on that the silent effects don't have
The interrupts.
well, silent effects don't come from interrupts anymore. Yeah, it's just this completely
separate
just an
spells.
interrupt. Yep, silences are their own thing. Healers now have silences. They got rid of disarms completely. I mean, they're cutting this game down to not necessarily like a cookie cutter, this is it, kind of like taking it back to what it used to be. It has that old school feel to it, but on that level where they want each role filled almost straight to a T now. Like, they want people just to be doing exactly what they need to be doing with their crowd control back involved. They want people using it. I feel like every ability that they have now, rather than not using those shackles and not using certain heals just because it was just easier to throw out more input through certain heals, or DPS having a specific rotation. It's changing everything.
Right.
Everyone's going to have to get involved in everything.
I think Blizzard also stated that, that they really wanted to cut down on all the redundant abilities that that every class had. Like, for example, they got rid of Skull Banner, and they've implemented Skull Banner into Recklessness, so I no longer have to push 2 buttons at the beginning of the fight. Yep. So I think it's almost like a QOL change. It really is. And like you said, I think Blizzard really wants everyone to be using all of their abilities rather than just having these abilities that they never use. And seeing as they're allowing like certain abilities, like for Fury Warriors, I can use Spell Reflect and Shield Barrier. So I think Stance Dancing is going to be back into the loop. I think using a lot of these defensive abilities smarter, where, you know, like I said, it plays down to them wanting us to be a lot smarter with our GCDs and our cooldowns and know when to appropriately use them. I think that when it comes to progression, it's going to be a lot more fun, but also a lot more difficult and intensive when it comes to making these decisions. And you're really going to have to know every other class, especially from your position as the raid leader. You're going to have to know exactly what everybody's got going on so you can help coordinate things, you know, properly. And it also puts some weight on just the raiders in general, because sometimes a raid leader can't know everything about every single class and whose cooldowns are up. So I think it's also going to emphasize raid communication in the sense that as a raider, I'm going to have to let you know when my rallying cry's up. I'm going to have to let you know if I've got shield barrier, can I tank a hit from one of these big ads before we can kill it, stuff like that. And I think it's going to make progression a hell of a lot more difficult, but a hell of a lot more fun.
No, yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I feel like you even said that they were stacking abilities into abilities, kind of making it easier in a sense. And when we were talking about all about this, like, I don't expect the game to become more difficult at all. I feel like it's still going to have that same style of difficulty, just almost at a completely different angle in a sense. You're going to see everything at a lower level of numbers, more specific to what you have to do, but it's still going to be just as difficult. Other things like those stats smushed together and all those kind of things, I see them getting rid of profession perks. Like, for example, engineering has your synapse springs, your nitro boosts are completely, they remove the springs. They have nitro boost limited to 1 per use in a boss fight. I mean, they're even getting rid of like any other profession specific ability. They're completely sticking to that ability prune right to the top of it all. I mean, I thought it was mostly focusing on the class abilities and just getting rid of some of them, but they're even cutting out professions and everything. Like, I feel like they are dumbing this game down a little bit. I'm not gonna lie about that. It was nice to have a little bit more going on. It wasn't too difficult, but they're kind of going backwards with it and just getting rid of things to make it less than what we already have.
Now, before we continue, because the next thing I want to cover is I want to go back to stats. But before we go on, I want everybody that is watching know, and shout out. I love to see that, you know, we've at least got 14 people here, you know, watching the stream. It's better than what we've done before. that if you guys have any questions on anything we've covered, or maybe there's something that we haven't covered yet, you have a question, and we might know the answer to, feel free to just type it in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer it. Or if it's not something that we know, we will research it on the spot, and we can answer that question for you. But now,
what do you think about this stat, or what do you guys think about the content, or what's Andres wearing?
That shorts and a t-shirt, man. What's up, Maximus? So let's go in on these stats here. So let's hold on one second. Hold on. So the primary stats that we've always had were agility, strength, and intellect. And Blizzard stated that these have been the foundations of the characters' power levels, but they weren't made equally, making it harder for them to balance them against the secondary stats, like the critical strike, like the mastery, like the new secondary stats we've got, like versatility, multi-strike, and so on and so forth. So I think some of the changes that they're doing to that is now, like, they still kept dodge and parry into the game. So now your dodge is going to the amount of agility, or the amount of dodge you gain from each agility point is reduced by 25%, and the amount of parry that you gain from all the strength has been reduced by 25%. So I don't think the focus for prot warriors anymore is going to be the parry, because we have less sources for it. But excuse me. Now we've got each agility or strength also grants 1 attack power down from 2. And all other sources of attack power now grant half as much before. So they're scaling the amount of attack power that we're going to have. So I think they're going to emphasize a lot more on our special abilities rather than just our auto attacks. So I don't think I'll be seeing my melee attacks in my top 5 damage sources anymore. So I don't know how I feel about it yet, but I don't think it's going to impact us that much because of all the, at least specifically from a warrior's point of view, all the revamps that they've done to our spells and abilities are definitely going to compensate for it. And as I said before, looking at the charts, Fury Warrior is still number 1, baby.
You Fury Warrior. It's nice to see. I don't know if I necessarily like to see every role that the warrior fulfills now on top, but I mean, I guess you guys have your.
Do you have a minute to talk about your relationship with the Guardian Druid? And what it means for you?
I think they're going to be pretty sweet. But hold on one second. We've got a question from the Twitch chat. Do you think healers having to cast certain heals now that used to be instant will affect rating much, or do you think it's mostly a PvP change?
Oh, it already has. Healing last night was, from what I hear,
from what we all heard, a challenge.
Yeah, man. In a perspective, just being one of the usual healers, and I mean constantly healing every raid, to see the new change and how they have all these different spells going from that instant side to actually having to cast them, it's a huge difference. You're now, every class is experiencing that absorption discipline priest kind of role where you have to anticipate what's going to happen. You're constantly throwing your small spells that need to be casted but can keep the rate up for renews, rejuves, anything like that. You're constantly wanting to throw them on players to keep them up, while focusing your certain spells that are maybe longer casted but heal better on the guys who need it, like the tanks. Maybe sometimes throwing them in emergency to the guys who may be at a half health but need to go up. For the guys that are low, you're going to be casting your instant spell, or not your instance, but you're close to the instance, if not your instance, to keep them up, to get them back up. But there's a lot of different things coming with healers on a PvE side, as well as that PvP side. And also what we said about those things about the CCs and how they're cutting those in half too. That's going to be, I think that's going to be the biggest effect on a PvP change and a PvP aspect, is how little CCs are actually going to do and how more specific you're going to have to get in a PvP scenario. I mean, PvP is probably going to be awesome again now that they're stat squishing on top of everything else that's going on.
Yeah, I feel like the change that they wanted to make in healing wasn't so much like you have to keep everyone at 100% all the time, and so we're just going to throw away raid-wide damage at you for no reason. It's more of, we're going to make you think about what heal to use when. And so each button press is going to have to be a decision you make.
Yeah, and I think that goes and just emphasizes the point that I made earlier, is that Blizzard wants to emphasize the decision making and the fact that the healers are going to have to know mechanics, and they're going to have to know what other things about the other classes, and knowing, like, okay, this guy's at 50% health, but we've got this raid-wide hit coming, and there's like a warrior and a mage. Who's going to be able to absorb the most of that hit? So who should I prioritize for this healing? And I think, like I said, it's just going to make healing just like its own little mini game inside the entire boss fight. And it's good. I think this entire first tier is going to be really really healer dependent, rather than what Siege was with like, you know, damage dependency and survivability in the sense that the tanks need to not get one shot by certain abilities. But I think it's going to be a lot more difficult, and I'm really looking forward to it, because, you know, you always got those people. I just want to say this, that you say people that are like, you know, I quit WoW because WoW's easy, but they're only 6 out of 14 inflexible, and, you know, only 1%. I think it's like less than 1% of the WoW population right now has killed heroic Garrosh. That's a difficult boss fight. We've been there. We've done that, got the t-shirt. That is not an easy boss fight. We can't even kill it. Granted, we've only been at it for 5 months, and 10-man even less than that, but it is
even less sun.
It is a difficult boss fight, by far. So
yeah. And like,
I don't think really, you know, the changes in rating would make you feel like a noob. I just think it's an adjustment. It's just different than how rating has been for the past 2 years, you know, so it's going to take some adjustment, but, you know, you guys, I believe in healers. I believe in you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, Clarissa just backed me up in saying that he also doesn't think that everyone needs to be at 100% while healing, and that the healer is going to have to prioritize certain targets for certain moments in the boss fight, emphasizing the fact that they're going to need to know the ins and out of every single mechanic in that fight, and that people are going to have to really start using the defensive cooldowns that self-heals a lot more. So,
yeah, I mean, me at 60% is just as alive as me at 100%.
Yeah, yep. You have, like, especially Prot Warriors, like, they have mitigation for days. And I think, I was thinking about it before, and I think that the lifesteal, or what is it, Leech?
Yeah, Leech.
I think that was going to be something that was really PvP focused, but when I put it into perspective now that self-healing might have to be a thing, if you get to the point where you're meeting all your thresholds for a certain class to do everything you can, maybe it's worth sacrificing a bit of damage to get that extra lifesteal, or the extra leech in, to get a bit more survivability out of your class. And I think it's gonna, regardless of whether or not we have reforging, I think it's also gonna open up a lot of customization in our classes and how people are gonna play their class and our general playstyle overall.
On top of that playstyle, I mean, I've repeated it, but I'm sticking true to what's gonna happen. This next coming content with rating is not going to be specific to numbers, like numbers and how well you're going to heal and how well you're going to DPS. Those things are going to matter, but I don't think they're going to matter as much as the mechanics. I really don't. I think that there's going to be a lot more, like with the controlling. I remember back in the day when raids, when you had to shackle undead and do all those different things to keep constantly add snared in one corner, or different things like that, and when mages tanked in High King Malgar fight, and constantly keeping absorptions up and constantly keeping them counterspell, different things like that. A lot of this game is going to specifically come down to mechanics, coming down to if you're pressing the right buttons at the right time, not if I can keep everyone at 100% HP, if I can constantly keep healing, if my numbers can be the best numbers. No, this game's getting way more specific now, and I feel like mechanics are going to be a huge factor on actually passing or failing.
Now,
I can I don't know, enhance or elemental shaman. Yeah, it's one of those things with someone asked about elemental shaman. If you just want to sit there and hit your 4 DPS buttons and just try and get on the meters, you'll do okay. You're not going to like top the charts. They're coming in middle right now ish.
Actually,
did they improve them?
Yeah, to stop you right there, just because I am the guy to hound for the DPS meters, I'm paying attention as much as I can for the ones currently. Tier 16 heroic, I don't know. I actually believe they were updated as of yesterday. I will get 100% later on in this, but the last patch update prior to Tuesday that they had checks on I think it was on the 9th, maybe the 10th. Elemental Shamans were like 4th,
Really?
right under Warriors technically. They were under every spec of the Warriors. Yeah, Elemental Shamans were up there. Now,
Tier
I can't
16 or tier 17?
That's what I'm saying. Tier 16 heroic. In best gear right now, Elemental Shamans are putting out some work. Tier 17 though, they were lacking a bit. But what they've done with all the different classes is they've kind of kept them in that grouping of DPS. There's no one that's going to be beating someone by 15k, 20k anymore. You're not obviously going to see those numbers. You're seeing more stuff like people are only getting beat by 500 DPS or maybe even 20. Like they're keeping them really, the numbers are really close. And I've noticed that Elemental Shamans have kind of been keeping up. Not too high, but they're definitely not going to do awful.
But where the shaman's going to shine is if you're that guy that can recognize the mechanics, because you still have a boatload of totems that do a boatload of things. So
Yep.
if you're able to put out your decent to good DPS while putting down those situational totems that help the raids, that, clear fears or remove, roots and stuns, like that's, if you can do that stuff, then you're going to get a raid spot 100% of the time.
Yep. Like I said earlier, I'm sticking to it, guys. I'm staying mechanics and everything that's going to come from your class specifically, not just your DPS or just your healing or just how well you can hold aggro. Everything's becoming something now, and I feel like it's going to be more about the players who can actually fulfill every role of their specific class and role, rather than that guy who could just put out numbers.
And I think Blizzard did want to emphasize that is that they want to keep every class viable, because like right now there's certain classes or specs that we just don't want in our raid groups with tier 16 rating. They don't bring enough to the raid groups, and their damage is just completely lackluster because of the huge discrepancies or differences in the meters. Like when you've got a Fury Warrior pulling 500k single target and like a Shadow Priest dealing 200k single target, which one are you going to pick for your fucking raid group? But now that there's a lot less of a discrepancy between numbers in the classes, they're keeping all of the classes and all of the specs as viable as possible. But the reason certain classes may have a lower damage output than others may be because they bring a bit more utility than the other classes. So you might have to swap in certain classes for another during a certain fight. So I think it's decision making to a macro standpoint of view is like, how are we going to decide on what our raid comp's going to be for this next fight? Because we have this, and this to deal with. This guy has great numbers, but we really don't have to worry about the enrage timer in this one. But we also need to emphasize our survivability. We're going to need some extra heals. Why don't we bring in the Shadow Priest with some VEs to help us out? And that, I think that's going to be another choice that we're going to have to make. And I do like that may being a possibility is how Blizzard sees it. But from a player standpoint of view, the last thing you want to do is going into a new boss, you have to get swapped out. So I think they may be emphasizing a bit more and anticipating some players having alternate characters that they'll finally actually get to play and swap out onto.
To answer that one question, Arthur, it's about down removal. With down removal, I think it was more or less, I don't think they, like I said, we're still talking on those lines of like specific tasks. Dots added this extra, I feel like it added an extra ability to the rotation. It added something that I feel like a lot of people had to focus on in order to maximize on their builds, and Blizzard doesn't want that. I mean, they've specifically said they don't want to keep adding abilities in intent to make you have to keybind and macro another spell or another thing to have your whole bar where you're pressing shift controls, alts, numbers, and everything like that. They're not intending to load us up. So I think they got rid of the dot side of things to essentially just decrease that amount, to have us not have to worry about so many different keybinds and so many different buttons and so many different skills. Like, it was hard sometimes in fights that were a lot of environmental heavy kind of raid aware, what you got to be watching out for, hitting you kind of things. It was hard to keep a 10 second, 9 second, 8 7 6 5 4 a dot up on people when you're trying to bust out your rotation to begin with. It was that additional thing that I don't think anyone really wanted to worry about, especially Shadow Priest. I feel like that was a downfall to us a lot because that extra dot was just it was just a hassle. I feel like, yeah, you're on the run sometimes, but let's focus more on the utility. Maybe you can throw up that shield on someone rather than throwing up that Shadow Word Pain, and you're focusing more on your rotation at that point. Also, McGorner, about your you brought up that nerf to Disc Priest, Steven. Right now, in my personal perspective, Disc Priest is not bad at all. I think they're actually better than Holy right now, and better than a lot of the classes. I'd say that in a heroic, since I'm kind of like fully heroic geared or mythic geared at this point, I don't see a loss actually. I mean, constantly, I'm never losing mana. I'm never losing anything like that.
Humble brag.
But on a real note, though, I don't think Disc Priests have been nerfed in this expansion with Mist yet. But I have personally played the Disc Priest in Warlord, different things like that. I see Holy kind of taking over eventually when that time comes. But Disc Priest right now, there's nothing to really worry about. If you're having trouble, kind of look at what other people are using. I mean, there's a ton of different websites that talk about transitions. So I would definitely look around, see what's going on with that.
Now, I want to just go over some of the stuff regarding hit and expertise, and then a few of the changes, like brief changes that might be small in the sense that it's not going to take up much of your patch notes, but it might be huge when it comes to affecting your playstyle. Obviously, hit and expertise were completely removed. The hit and expertise bonus on all items and enhancements, any gems, anything you've had like that, have been changed into crit, haste, or mastery. Now we all have a 100% chance to hit, 0% chance to be dodged, a 3% chance to be parried, and there's a 0 chance for glancing blows, because we no longer also have to stand behind the boss. Now, tanking specializations receive an additional 3% reduction in chance to be parried. Tanks now have a 0 chance to be parried versus any creature up to 3 levels higher, and it also includes bosses. Dual wielding also still imposes a 19% chance to miss to balance it with two-handed weapon use. Death Knights lose Veteran of the Third War. Or, I'm sorry, no, it reduces the chance to for attacks to be parried, sorry. Balance of Power has been removed from Druids. They do get, I think, like a level 100 talent, though, that has like the same name. Nature's Focus no longer increases the chance to hit with Moonfire or Wrath. And Thick Hide also reduces the chance for attacks to be parried by 3%. Monks, their Stance of the Wise Serpent no longer increases hit or expertise, because obviously they've been removed. And then your tank stance, I think it's called Sturdy Ox or something like that. It also reduces their chance for attacks to be parried. So basically any tank spec doesn't get parried, dodged, or glanced. Paladins or priests, they lost Divine Fury and Spiritual Precision. I'm not familiar with either of those, Ethan. Do you want to explain how that's going to impact your play?
It was along the lines, I believe. See, honestly, those things, I never really paid attention to things like Divine Fury, Spiritual Precision. For us, any forms of things that were related to an expertise or hit kind of side, unless you were Shadow, of course, there was really not anything to worry about with that kind of stuff. You mostly, like in this expansion, you mostly focused on what you knew was the best for your class to produce the highest numbers, like crit and stuff. So, I mean, there was not too much going on with those. Just like some of these, I mean, I think it was the Druid one too. I don't know the benefit of that one compared to... I do know for Boomkin Druids it was really well, and Feral Druids and different things like that, but to be honest, I'm clueless about that.
Oh, here's exciting. Simulation Craft updated a new DPS ranking list this morning.
Ooh, you want to link that?
Right there in the comments. Looking like we got Demo Warlocks, Subtlety Rogues, Gladiator Warriors.
What?
On the top three.
What?
Sword and board, baby. In your face.
Do I have
That's
to go?
Mythic content. That's what.
Tier
No, that's what it's
Mythic.
gonna look like when you have all.
Tier
when
17
you have
Mythic
all your
gear.
Mythic gear. That's what people are looking like.
And again, if you guys
Wow,
are
hey,
also go ahead.
Look at some of the Enhancement and Elemental took a flop.
So
Retribution's still
whoever asked
low.
about Elemental, I am so sorry.
I think I might be going Gladiator because that's like a almost 4K difference.
Get off my steez.
You have some competition, kid. But again, this is a tier 17
And it's
mythic
just a
gear.
patchwork fight, so it's just standing there hitting a guy.
Yep,
So
and
it's never going to be like this.
And it's tier 17 mythic as well, so that's something that you're gonna have to. That'll be farther down the line. So at what we were looking at before, generally it's going to be Fury two-handed is up there. Gladiator. Actually, I think all the Furies, all the warrior specs are up there. Demo's up there. I believe it was Frost was up there. Frost.
Let's give a big shout out to the Windwalker Monk making an appearance in the top 8.
Yeah, look at him.
Low before too.
Yes,
That's
it was.
Mages are dropping. I feel like the mages are gonna keep climbing down a little bit.
Yeah,
Battle
but-
Druid's dropping actually.
Fire mages aren't too far behind though. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. Like, the difference between 1st and 5th is 3,000 and change.
Which
It's
is
not much.
It's really
Yeah.
nothing. And again, like you said, it's a patchwork fight. They're just standing there hitting basically a target dummy. So
Also, like I said too, the numbers, those top guys, I mean, they're still pruning. These are not specific numbers that are going to happen. This is 100% it. Like you guys said with that patchwork, it's not possible. They're not. I mean, they can't get those specific numbers for every encounter. It's just not going to happen. But
Right.
even like what I said about those numbers only being about 500 DPS, even 100 DPS off compared to each other, after those first 4 guys, even the first 3, I mean, you're seeing very, very close numbers all the way throughout it. You don't see anyone drop. I mean, you see the Retribution Paladin. Some of those guys go from the 36, 37K range all the way down to 33. Yeah, there's some that might need a little bit of revamping, hopefully. But, I mean, everyone else is generally staying in a very close competition.
And again, there's also these other things to consider is that, first off, like I said, it also plays into Blizzard trying to keep the viability for all your classes and specs and lowering the discrepancy between damage outputs of each spec and class. But also, in a real situation, there's going to be some times where, like, if you put this into perspective in Siege of Orgrimmar, these certain classes might deal that much DPS, but their overall damage might be different because, say for Thok, the entire time the Warlock's getting silenced, so the Warrior is going to end up pulling ahead in damage done overall, which is really what matters. Or there's fights where, like, or like a different phase of Thok, where the Warrior can't auto-attack him or get any of his abilities on him except for Throw, which does, like, now probably maybe like 15 damage. So there's going to be it's going to play out completely differently, but at least this kind of gives us a general scope of how a basis, I guess, of how each class and spec is going to perform in the new expansion when we get into that mythic rating content finally.
On top of kind of switching topics of what's going on right here, but still staying on the stat squish. I don't know if you guys have personally noticed, but when I heard that mages had an ability that amplified helpful magic and stuff and healing received, I was really curious about what they kind of changed with the raid utility that they added to this whole stat squish and ability pruning / additions. I saw that mages got that amplified and I was curious, and like, I don't know if you guys looked, but it's looking like every class has their own form of raid utility that's required for everyone now. Like, I remember it was even when we were running Shaw Pride last night, and I remember Kudama, one of our hunters, he said he was popping Aspect of the Fox, you don't have to stop casting. And I was like, wait a minute, what is he talking about? And when he had it on, I was able to run around and cast Smite. I was able to move and cast. So hunters now have an ability where they can give their raid members a constant ability of casting abilities while they're moving. And then mages have that thing to amplify all those helpfuls and stuff. And I even saw just some other things, like they reduced the amount of damage taken specifically by Death Knights and Rogues, increased, I don't know if they increased range and stuff like that, but Shamans have a different twist with Ancestral Guidance now. There's a bunch of different things that people have going on with utility itself, which is interesting because not everyone used to have that. Now they're kind of adding a little bit more going on in the game with everyone having this sense of utility in a raid.
One thing I like that Blizzard did was they really simplified. We're gonna move off of the stats here for a bit, but one thing that they changed up was how movement speed bonuses are going to be effective, and it's basically everything is going to be additive. So if you have 2 buffs that give you 25% movement speed, you now get a 50% bonus movement speed rather than what they had before, which I believe was like if you got 2 different movement speed bonuses of 25%, the first one would add up, so you'd be at 125% movement speed, and then it would add on another 25% movement speed of your total current movement speed, which was the 125%, which rather than the base movement speed, so you'd end up with 100, and I think the math works out to like 156% movement speed rather than 150. So it's no longer going to be multiplicative, but it's going to be additive rather. So I think the change to that isn't going to be drastic, but it is just a nicer way for us to be able to look at the stat and be able to calculate it if there's at any point an issue with, or not an issue, but some sort of mechanic that we're going to have to deal with where we need to be quickly moving through a certain area. Some classes lost raid utility, also like priests lost Hymn of Hope, Pallies lost a few. There's also some classes lost raid utility because I think Blizzard noticed that some classes just had a lot more, which is why some of the other classes weren't getting as much play. And I think they rebalanced it with the loss of a lot of classes certain utility, but other classes gained utility. And
see, now for me, for the Prot Warrior, I lost a bunch of raid utility. But I'm Prot Warrior. My raid utility is keeping all you alive.
Yeah, basically, he gets to stay alive, which keeps us alive because the boss isn't, fucking us. It's staying strictly on him, which is all right. I mean, like, I think Pallies losing it was all right because, I mean, Red Pallies right now. Sure, they don't have much damage compared to the other classes. Like, they're up there, but they're not going to deal as much damage to the classes. But the raid utility that they've got is beyond me. Like, it was just absolutely through the roof. And it also them having so much utility. Like, who are you going to pick right now in this expansion between 2 classes that have similar DPS? A Red Paladin or a Windwalker Monk? Windwalker Monk has almost no utility, whereas the Paladin has so much. He's got like the 2 bops, the Diva Aura, the kind of, he's got the Lay on Hands, he's got the Hand of Sack, he's got all this stuff. And I think it was good for Blizzard to change that up, to balance every class to have generally around the same amount of raid utility as the next one, because again, going back to the original point, they're giving viability to every class and spec as best as they can, so that way people can play what they want and not have to worry about a group not taking that because their class sucks.
It kind of also brought more, like, they want to see a variety of classes in specific raids. That was one thing they talked about. But they talked about not having like 4 warlocks because they do a lot of DPS. I guess they're kind of removing this amount of utility so that you see more of a variety in a raid. Just like you said, with Hymn of Hope being removed, we still have our Power Word Shield, and we still have some other utilities that are very beneficial to a raid group. With the Paladin, it's not like they lost Devo. It's only that Holy Paladins now have Devo. So you're seeing it get more specific, so you can see more classes fill a raid group rather than just seeing those, okay, you have 5 warlocks and then a little bit of everything else because they're okay at DPS. And this goes on that topic of this DPS as being the only thing that matters in these raid fights. You're seeing a little bit more of what they're trying to do with the balance of raids and why they're trying to accomplish this whole side of get a little bit of everything in the raid rather than worry about one thing and worry about specifically just popping out numbers.
And I want to move on to the next section because I feel like we've just been here forever, going over some of the more general stuff, unless anybody else in the chat has any more questions regarding kind of this specific raid aspect of stats and survivability and the utility from different classes. But I want to take a look at what we're going to be doing a lot of when we first get into the expansion, and that's going to be questing. I've played a little bit of the beta. To be honest with you, I haven't gone on it as much as I should have. I've done a lot of my class research, and that's not the issue. It's just, but I haven't leveled 90 to 100 yet. I've done 90 to 94, but let me tell you how the questing feels so much more streamlined to me, and I don't know, I feel like it's a lot faster. I think it's a hell of a lot faster compared to where Myth, you were kind of all over the place, but now in WoD you're following that same quest line the entire time. Whereas like when you were leveling in WoD, I don't feel like I was following a quest line. I think I was just doing generic things for no reason at all, with no sort of end goal. But with WoD, through these levels that I've gone through, I always feel like my entire purpose was I've got to stop the Iron Horde.
I feel like there's the storyline they're pushing is a lot clearer, because there's you come across some raid zones that you stumble across a story. Sometimes it's very in your face. Sometimes you just kind of like, oh right, I'm doing a story quest chain. That like halfway through it you realize that you're doing something important just because you're going so fast. I feel in WoD they're pushing their narrative very well.
Yep, I think the first few quests that you get into have a really good example of that. Sure, some of these quests were generic, but they all had the purpose. Like, let me give you this example here. As soon as you come out of the gate, I'm gonna try and avoid too much spoiling here. But
you go to Draenor.
Yeah, you go to Draenor. You have to try and shut down the portal. After that, you follow a bunch of people. How was the storyline? I'll get to that in a second.
Spoilers.
This guy.
So you... I keep looking at his question. I can't focus. So basically, you have to follow a bunch of these heroes like Murad and all these other big name guys, Murad, Khadgar, etc. And you guys are trekking through the forest. You finally get to a place that you're establishing as just like a forward outpost to get away from the portal, push the Iron Horde back from the portal, and reclaim some territory so that way you can get yourselves as Alliance and Horde, settled in this new world. And as soon as you get there, the first thing that they have you do is a bunch of generic quests, like kill this, as many of these as you can, or gather this and that. But the way that they did it was, it felt like there was almost a sense of progression to these generic quests. Like, all right, I just collected a bunch of axes from these dead Iron Horde guys, but those axes are now going to go into the hands of the people that are working with us, like a bunch of these Alliance soldiers. So now I've got more Alliance guards sitting outside this kind of outpost that we've got here. There's more people arriving. They're all equipped with weapons now because I went and gathered those. Or I gathered a bunch of leather from these creatures that are out here, and that leather got turned into tents, so this camp gets bigger. And it goes the same way for your garrisons, which are also going to be something that you're going to encounter and have to progress through.
Spoilers. I'm just kidding.
Progress. I think something they do really well is, the expansion is called Warlords of Draenor. So, like, the first 2 hours of when you're leveling up in the expansion, you're going to meet the Warlords of Draenor. Like, they're not hiding them back. You're like, okay, well, here's the end boss that you don't get to see Illidan until, 6 months into the expansion. In the first half hour, you're going to meet 3 or 4 of the guys, and it's going to be very obvious who they are because they show you, and it's very cinematic how they do it, and it's a new take to how they're doing things, but I think it's great. Just from a storytelling standpoint, I think a lot more solid than it's been in the past.
I definitely think it's the right way to go, because for me, at least, I've leveled characters left and right. I played a lot of this game, and I think, because the story's always been important to me. I've read the books, I'm constantly reading lore. I like role-playing. So that's always something that interests me, and being able to incorporate that into something that I don't like is going to make me want to do that thing a lot more. And I think it goes the same for other people. I think it's going to make questing a lot more fun, more cinematics, more cinematic-esque encounters with something that's meant to be, or some things that are meant to be like end-game content bosses. While you're questing, I think is going to be absolutely awesome. It's going to be a great experience.
On top of that, just to get a little 2 cents in, just because I noticed you asked specifically about storyline questing, on a personal perspective, not just this quest lines themselves, but the UI they added to help these quest lines kind of progress is phenomenal. Just from opening your world map in the game, you're going to see, like on your map, say each zone now has a collective set of chapters to follow a storyline. So you'll know if you're doing the main storyline, it'll show up on your map. Like, this is the main storyline. Get to this quest if you want to continue the storyline of this zone. Every zone has its own story. And then on top of that, they have their own chapters of the story that you complete through the zones. I thought that was phenomenal. Having a specific zone, you don't have to worry about doing all these different side quests if you want to physically just focus on that story. Another thing like that, they have those new scenarios or those other things going on in the zones where you might have to just go kill a certain amount of monsters, and they're like, you'll see them all over the map. They have these shields and swords when you start playing, and it's cool because those are those other optional things you can do in the zone, like side quests, that if you want to get the most out of a zone, you can go do those, and they give you a ton of bonus experience.
Yeah, do
and on
those
top of,
immediately. It's like,
it's huge.
if you got 13k experience for turning in just a normal quest, if you complete those optional objectives, you get like 80k experience. Like, it's huge. You have to do them.
And on top of that, which one of my new favorite things about questing, it gives it an even more larger purpose than before, is that they have that new system where you have a chance at rare and maybe epic rewards. Not necessarily these new rewards, but upgrades to your current quest rewards that you receive. They added something where it's like, if you hand in and talk to a guy on a quest and you get your reward from him, there's a chance that that quest hand in from whatever quest you do procs an upgrade of that item, which means you might get better items leveling than some others just by the chance of doing those additional quests. So those other quests don't have just the purpose of the experience, they also give you that purpose of reward. And still the main storyline still does that too, but it gives more of an accomplished side of things to all players focusing on all quests rather than just trying to blow through and get through the story, or just farm instances and do other things like that and get the gear out of the instance that's better than the quest gear. Everyone kind of has a chance at getting that good gear just from doing what they love doing most.
And this kind of was all brought up just by the fact that I was looking at some things that they've done for self-sustainability, just in general, and excuse me, they've exponentially increased every class's ability to sustain their own health when killing enemies, and specifically solo questing. So you've got all these different changes. If you guys look at the patch notes on the Battle.net website, for 6.0, you can see all the class-specific ones. Obviously, they haven't done anything to warriors because warriors are already broken. But I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so literally every class but warriors has gotten to change their self-sustainability because warriors are broken. So I think, and they just gave us leech. So I think questing is going to be a lot less. There's not going to be not much dying, but I think you're always going to be kind of like freaking out when you're questing. I feel like you're going to be taking a bit more damage, but you're never going to die because you're going to be like gaining this health back from all this self-sustainability, all this leech, and all this other stuff. So you're kind of going to be on the edge this whole time, and I think it'll almost like add a little bit of fun to the questing, because the whole time you're worried about dying when you pull too many mobs, but you have the ability to keep yourself up. So like when you're at that 1 health, you just hit a button, boom, you're back up to like 50 health or 50% health. And I think it'll be more fun for questing just in general.
And again, it's taking it back to what WoW used to be. It's not bitch WoW anymore.
It's not bitch WoW.
Nope.
It's not. What else can we cover? They got
let's jump to the new stuff, man.
Yeah.
Talking about numbers. There's new content right now. Quite literally, right now, there's new content.
What? Tell me.
There's those the blasted lands, the invasion, the Iron Tide.
Ooh, that's right. Yes, if you guys haven't done that quest line, go do it, because you get...
It's going to take you like 20 minutes to do it.
Maybe
it's cool.
20, 30 minutes, you guys get an achievement, or not...
a title.
A title, sorry.
And an achievement.
Do you get an achievement too?
Yeah.
All right. And the title is Of the Iron Vanguard.
Yo, spoiler, let them achieve it. Let them experience the self-accomplishment of this guy.
Wow. You know what? I'm out. I don't know. I'm out. But also, before we continue with that, I just want to point out, because maybe some people haven't noticed it, but if you guys got your legendary cloaks pre 6.0, you get your title called Legend of Pandaria. So make sure you guys take a look at that one. I think it's a pretty cool title. Okay, so yeah, back to this new content. I think
I dig on it. It was cool. It's a little short quest chain. There's a couple things, like, it's really showing off the new graphic stuff. Like, there's one guy that like explodes, and like instead of him just exploding and falling over, he explodes and then his skeleton falls over. Like, it's just new death animation I'd never seen before, and it was just really cool, like to see someone die in a new way. And wow, an orc cannot die like an orc.
I haven't seen that one. I might have to just go back and kill more people just to see it.
I honestly rushed through it just to get the title.
That's what I did because I was doing it right before raid, and I was late to raid anyways.
Some of us like to sip our new content like a fine wine.
Didn't have time, sorry. But I think we're gonna have to go back to what they've been adding. But with questing now, as you level up, a lot of your main glyphs are going to be added to you automatically. So rest in peace, scribes.
Goodbye.
So a lot of the main ones are going to be just automatically added to you. Combat resurrections. This one has confused the hell out of people. But basically, in any flexible difficulty, what was I going to say? I'm sorry, no. In any difficulty, you're going to have a certain amount of battle resurrections that basically kind of accumulate over time, and it's shared amongst the entire raid. In like a 10-man, let's go for example, we have a 10-man raid. You guys are doing heroic. Every 9 minutes of that raid, while you're fighting a boss, you're going to get an additional charge to your battle resurrections. Battle resurrections are not the charges are not consumed until the player accepts the resurrection. So if you accidentally res the wrong person, or the raid leader wants you to switch to resurrect another person, if that person hasn't accepted the res, you still have that res available. It doesn't go on cooldown. It's just charges that's shared amongst every single player in the raid that has the ability to resurrect somebody in combat. And it'll be like a small little charge counter, I believe in the bottom right hand corner of the icon, the spell icon on your bars. We've done glyphs. Unfortunately, they've removed all of our buffs from professions. I'm pretty pissed because engineering's pretty much useless now.
But if you have slacked on professions like some of us have, then it's awesome.
Then it does not affect you whatsoever. A cool thing is now is herbalists can harvest any herb in the game without any need of a hard skill cap. So basically, like if you have level 1 herbalism, you can go to Pandaria and start farming Golden Lotus. But the harvest, the amount that you're able to harvest from each node will be determined by your skill level. Same goes for mining. Healing potions no longer share a cooldown with other potions, so I don't have to pre-pot and then wait 60 seconds to pre-pot again, or forced to choose between my Mogu power and my healing pot to keep myself alive. So I think that's another indication that Blizzard wants to emphasize the survivability in your raid, in your raiding and PvE in general, that they're taking that off of a separate cooldown. So expect healing pots to be something that you're going to end up using. But it has a 60-second cooldown. It shares a 60-second cooldown with health stones. Being the Warlock's health stones, and the cooldown will not reset until the player leaves combat.
Yep.
What else could we cover here?
Let's talk about guilds. I'm not a lead EP level 25 guild anymore. I'm just a guild.
What?
They got rid of everything like that. Don't tell me you haven't seen that.
No, I haven't. What are you talking about?
You haven't seen that we only have 5 perks now?
They removed guild level?
Yeah. Wow. Holy.
What?
Oh, pump the brakes. This guy
Here we go.
has mind
Just to
blown.
let everyone know. They completely bumped guild levels. You don't have to level a guild anymore. Every guild comes standard with the same, I believe, 5 or 6 abilities, or perks. I mean, Mount Up, Hasty Hearth, Mobile Banking, the Quick and the Dead, Guild Mail, and Mass Resurrection. That's the standard. They're not going past that anymore. There's no levels to gain any additional perks. That's just done. So yeah, it's a huge change on guilds. No one has to sit there and have to waste time getting people to join their guild just to get the required levels for the guild to receive the perks. Everyone just has it now.
I don't know how I feel about that. I liked being a level 25 guild. And,
I mean, that's the thing was like people, the mass invite of people. Like if you go on a high pop server, you make a character, like you're getting pelted with guild requests until you accept one, and people would hold out and like, well, I'm not going to join anything but a level 25 guild. I'm not going to, waste the time on a level 1 guild, and so it was just another exclusionary thing.
Exactly. You needed to cut that out. I was so tired of making an alt and waiting for a guild invite to our guild and just having to wait and wait and wait just to get that invite and see all these different guilds inviting me like, hey, join my guild with their set macros and stuff like that. Like, I wish there's no sense of belonging to a guild if people are just spamming you just to get you in the guild, and that's that. Like, you're not going to meet people that way. I know people who've joined guilds like that and they barely even communicate with the guild. They just specifically use them for perks. That was awful. I hated having to be guildless. I liked how they at least added a sense where you can block them, but I don't think they needed that. I think they needed to get rid of these guild levels so that it can just become, if you're looking for a guild, you want to join a guild, here's the place for you. And obviously there's still going to be those guilds out there that spam the crap out of their advertisements and get you to try joining, but it's definitely going to cut down on them. I could definitely see that coming.
What I'm waiting for is when they come back with will group have group will travel rather. I want that mass summon again because I don't want warlocks in my group. Fuck warlocks.
Whoa, whoa, coming down hard on warlocks.
Yep.
Just a quick thing because I saw it's kind of going down the list now. But Arthur, I saw you post about the looting. I don't really mind. It's nice to see that I can just sell my grays as I'm walking around, and I like the more simple side of, not necessarily simple, but I like how they added these different specifics to inventory to allow us for more organization and less space required to be used up, different things like that. I like being able to stack all my stuff now for like gems, different mats, everything like that. So I'm definitely looking forward to not having to worry about the amount of inventory space I have. And it also makes people not have to worry, like if you don't have the 1,000-some gold to spend on those big bags, like now you don't technically need to really worry about that. Yeah, you're probably going to want to buy them just to have the additional space, but I mean, like if you can only spend or afford 10-slot bags or whatever, you're going to be good with 10-slot bags for at least a while, at least for your level range, until you get into that different side where you might need to open up for different things that you're picking up or using for like raids and stuff like that. So I like the new change to it.
Let's see. What other things can we go over before we finish up? Because we got about 15 minutes left. But as far as the physical game itself, being physical, I mean virtual, some of the world environments have been adjusted and changed. The nighttime environments for some areas have received some lighting adjustments.
Ooh, that's real exciting stuff.
When you're a developer and you notice things like that, I think it is. Because when I was walking through areas at dark, like specifically the Swamp of Sorrows, it is nice. It is really, like, if you guys haven't done it yet, go to a dark area like Swamp of Sorrows or what's the one below Elven Forest? Duskhaven or whatever the hell it's called. Take a look at that. Just go in there, turn up your graphic settings, and don't move because your FPS will be garbage, but it'll look great. The one frame that you'll be looking at, it looks nice. They've changed up our starting areas again, levels 1 through 10. So hopefully there's going to be... I might have to just level a character just to see what it's like. But apparently they've added improvements to the tutorial quests. And they say that they've changed the creatures and the NPCs in the area. So hopefully I can just one-shot things. I don't have to sit there 10 minutes killing a wolf anymore. Another cool thing to note, Kor'kron guards and any forces loyal to Garrosh have been ousted from all Horde cities and settlements, so no more Kor'kron in Orgrimmar. We've officially killed Garrosh in-game. I know that's a lot of things that people are curious about, is when they go and kill Garrosh, they're like, okay, so is Orgrimmar going to change yet? But generally it's not until the pre-patch, so now it's happened. No more Kor'kron in any Horde cities or settlements.
Because I guess I answered that wrong on the live stream. You're talking about the random stats. We actually noticed this. We should have brought this up earlier, but we noticed this up in Immersius yesterday because you're like, wow, those boots, they're really good. we noticed the comboing of stats now. I think that's what Arthas is trying to get at. I believe, if I haven't seen it too much, so I can't say I know much about it, but I believe items are now getting a twist on their stats. They're not always going to be the same ones you see every time. There's always a change to the stats. Am I not? Is that correct? I do believe I noticed that. I haven't seen it too much because I don't really get many upgrades these days, but I believe I did notice that yesterday with the new style of looting.
Yeah,
kind of like that Diablo one.
There's one thing that they have changed to the game is that players are going to be they're going to be able to switch to their other specs a lot easier rather than having a full, completely different set of gear. Your gear will now change according to your specialization. So I can be in my Fury gear, swap to Prot, and I will have all these Prot spec stat priorities. Like I'll probably get like the bonus armor rather than any other like anything like crit or haste or mastery or something like that. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm kind of into the Diablo style, just because it gives you a chance to you're never going to ignore loot. I think with this style because even if you have that piece of gear and it drops again, well, it might have the secondary stats that are more important for what you're going for on it. So you're always going to pay attention. You're always going to hope that something drops that might be just a few percentage points, better than what you've got on right now, which I think makes it worth farming bosses.
Now,
yep.
As far as that goes, does that mean that when something drops, it's never going to be wasted? Because I know every single raid group in Warlords of Draenor has so much holy gear for holy paladins that have gone to waste. What's happening with that? Is that how it's going to be affected? Where it's going to change depending on who gets the piece?
Yeah, well, nothing's going to be all mail is going to have agility and intellect, and all plate's going to have strength and intellect. So any class can use any gear. It's just that if a warrior throws on a plate, the intellect will be grayed out.
Gotcha. Okay. So then no more wasted gear. I like it.
And so if you're a paladin or whatever, and you in Prot, the strength will be the main stat, and if you go holy, the intellect will pop up and the strength will be grayed out.
Rip enchanters. Am I right?
It's not even, but it's it's not necessarily against that line. I guess they're just adding more diversity to what you can pick up. It's giving you, there's more options with the gear now. So like McShield was saying about the specific stats maybe being good at the time, but there's always that other stat on the next piece that you get that wasn't the same as that last piece that might just be just as good or even better. So you might get good stats, but there might be that perfect combo that you're also still hunting for. It also gives up that mixture to see like what compared stats together are better than the other ones. I feel like there's a lot more purpose to a raid now that there's that possibility of getting the perfect combo rather than just getting that gear or that specific piece that was just that was it. That's the best it can be. There's nothing better. Just a Warforged version.
Now sticking to the whole loot theme that we're talking just now.
No more item upgrades. Woo!
There's no more item upgrades, and there's no more personal loot system for content past 5.4. So when like an LFR and Flex, you just get like a thing that pops up on the screen and says you got this. There's none of that, though. Right now,
LFR still gotta work that way, right?
Raid Finder, yeah. Siege of Orgrimmar Raid Finder still uses that system, but now, with everything moving forward, you're gonna have to go up to the boss, right click him to loot, and see what he drops for you.
All right.
So there's
giving you the satisfaction of looting.
Basically, I think so, and I think now it's, if you don't get a piece of gear, I think maybe it guarantees gold. So at least you get something, because sometimes just nothing drops at all.
That's what I ran uppers, the new uppers yesterday, and that's how it was. You had to loot each boss.
Yep.
And I ended up getting a piece off the last guy, and I just gold off the first two.
So I'm excited.
So it's already
to see
in place. All right. I figured that was just a change for that instance, but I'm feeling it if that's how it's going to work.
Yep. Now all the ahead of the curves and cutting edge achievements for defeating Garrosh are no longer obtainable. So if you didn't get it on Monday night, sorry.
I saw a video of a guild running Garrosh on heroic like a half hour before the server shut down. and they wiped when Garrosh was at 500k health.
Oh,
and
man.
then they wiped, and 10 seconds later, the servers reset.
I'd kill myself.
Yeah.
I'd end it all.
And that was like them trying to get it for the first time, so they like missed it by one hit, 10 seconds shy.
That sucks, dude. I
So you just shut it down, start playing WildStar.
I'd quit the game. That's it. I'd huddle up into a corner and never leave. But let's see, what else? If you guys are interested in, I know Clarissa's a big fan of soloing old school content. They've changed up all the legacy raids where basically you do more damage to them the higher the difference in levels you are compared to that boss or mob in the instance. So like today, my hits on a level 90 creature, I'll bloodthirst them for a couple thousand. But I walked into Firelands with AJ earlier, and I was hitting 200k bloodthirsts. So it gives us the ability to solo old raid content, and they've also changed it so that way each bit is soloable. So like in Icecrown Citadel, Philanthropia Dreamwalker is a boss that you can skip past now. The door to Sindragosa is just open, and you no longer have to go and find a healer to go and solo ICC. You won't be able to kill the boss, but you can at least get past there. What else?
More specifically, since we only have a couple minutes, it's just something I noticed in game. Just if people are more psyched for Warlords of Draenor coming out, if you opened up your dungeon journals recently, you could see all the new upcoming content for the next expansion already there. You can go specifically through the raids. You can look at all the new models coming out to the game. They even have a lot of the actual encounters themselves, and they explain everything and what people are going to have to worry for, different things like that. So if you're preparing and you are more of like a hardcore raider, I mean, you can start already. You can see the gear out, you can see their abilities, and what I'm liking, what was interesting to me is just being able to look at the character models. I like what's coming. I mean, there's some cool new looking monsters that I really haven't seen before in my personal time playing. Not to mention, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but Blackrock Foundry, it's the last boss, Blackhand. I think he looks awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just they've kind of give us a sneak peek. If you haven't been on the beta, that's your sneak peek to see what's coming out already. If you click the specific encounters, they have the little tabs to see who else is in the fights. Blackrock Foundry alone, there's a fight called the Blast Furnace that there's about 7 different NPCs you have to worry about in that fight. So you can already see there's going to be some fights already that are going to require a lot of different control and mechanics being involved. So it's nice to see that they're...
Highmaul is going to be the first one I think they release, and
yep.
The first 4 bosses in there are like, it's nuts how much stuff they're throwing at us this time. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, isn't Highmaul as the first boss as Kargath, doesn't it?
I'm surprised to see Kargath being the first boss. Yep. I think regardless...
I think we'll fight Kargath again later. I think this is just this is like our first encounter with him.
We might not kill him.
We don't.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, that's right.
He drops his blade fist and runs away.
Gotcha.
Yep.
What I don't know how I feel about killing all these warlords at this point, because I think Blizzard did. I think the Lords of War series was incredible. I absolutely loved every single episode, just as much as the last, and I almost feel like a little attached to every single one of them, in the sense that like I kind of want to join their cause. Like I'm gonna go race change the orc, join the Iron Horde, see ya, Garrosh for life. Because I mean, they had some pretty interesting stories. I thought Kargath was just badass. Kargath and Grom especially.
Yeah.
And if you guys haven't gone to see it yet, YouTube.com/World of Warcraft, go watch the videos. They're mind blowing. Like every single one of them did not fail to give me goosebumps at one point or another. They were really, really good, and I feel like a little attached to the characters, and I think Blizzard needs to do that more. I think like Wrath was an incredible expansion. I think this is going to be an incredible expansion because, like, I mean, sure, the technology plays a big part into it. Like, of all the stuff that we have, that they're capable of doing for us now is mind blowing. But when it comes to being connected to the characters, which I think a lot of people don't really have, is that connection to certain characters or the understanding of the lore behind certain characters. And I think Blizzard's doing a much better job of that, because I'll be honest with you, I'm a huge lore junkie, but I didn't know anything about a lot of these, a few of these warlords. I didn't know that things like this happened in their past. I didn't know this was maybe Blizzard didn't release anything about it and they were saving it for these series. I'm not sure, but I hadn't heard anything about it, and now that I have, I fucking love them. I absolutely love them. So I'm really excited to see what they're gonna do for us when it comes to the actual storyline as we're questing through, and maybe some quest content or even what the raids are gonna be like as when it comes to giving us some story content while we're raiding. So I mean, I'm sick of Lore Walker Joe. Am I right?
And his slow time.
I'm looking forward to being able to start slaying some of the warlords right into it. Like, based on what you said about the story, I mean, when I watched that story, I remember Vindicator Maraud's story coming on, and I felt more of a cause to get on his side and want to just punch in as the Alliance and just punch in and just kind of rip through these warlords as soon as I get in there. Like, they kind of pulled me in to kind of join the cause in a sense, and I guess that's kind of what they were kind of shooting at. I'm looking forward to being able to encounter at least a couple of the warlords in the upcoming raids right off the bat. I mean, there is a ton of them. There's a good handful. Not trying to throw any spoilers. I don't know if we'll see all of them or not, really. We will,
Yeah,
but
not on this first tier.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, we won't. And we
I think
won't
we only
necessarily.
see 2 in the first tier.
I don't even think we're going to encounter all of them. I'm already feeling like there's some that are going to be swayed a different way. I think we're going to see a lot of twists in this story as we start playing. And
Yeah, I'm betting Gul'dan is going to be the wild card here.
He's definitely.
I mean,
He's definitely.
I'm saying who's Thrall's father? Which one is Thrall's father?
Durotar.
Durtan.
I'm calling that man. I don't think we're gonna fight him. I'm calling.
We're not fighting him. He's the leader.
Arson.
He's the leader of the Good Horde.
Okay. All right. Well, then there you go. There you go. I mean, I'm not.
Prediction fulfilled.
Well, no, you never know. You never know.
Yeah. No. He's the leader of the Horde faction right now in Draenor. Like all the Horde, their main base is now in Frostfire Ridge, which is where the Frost Wolves.
Okay, that's why. Yeah, and they're just mostly focused on the ogre. See, I didn't know I didn't know if the story was actually just going to involve all of the Iron Horde, just from the past, just managing to just come all together, and that's the cause of what's going to be happening. I thought there might have been a little bit more going on, but at least you guys know that. Thank God.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous to kill him, especially with Thrall being on our side. I was like, wait, that can't happen. There's no way.
I'm gonna make my prediction now. Last final boss to the expansion, the last final boss encounter, it's going to be a Grom and Garrosh duo.
I thought Garrosh dies somewhere in between. Was that just a troll? Maybe it's a troll. I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I hope I didn't spoil it for anyone. But
watch
I
your
heard stories that
spoilers.
he's not
I
good.
haven't heard anything, so you spoil it for me, I'll kill you.
They said that Grom's the last bad guy, but I don't buy it. Because they've said that it's only going to be a 2-tier expansion, like 2 raid tiers, but I think 3 is probably what they're going to end up doing. So my guess is that the Burning Legion is going to make an appearance and corrupt these alternate timeline orcs.
Maybe
or the ogres, because the ogres are much more intelligent in this other timeline.
Maybe what happens is Burning Sargeras shows up, or at least throws in some influence through Gul'dan, or who we have now. Ner'zhul is here, right?
Yeah.
So because he's not the Lich King yet, maybe we have to deal with some of that corruption between Ner'zhul and Gul'dan, and we almost go through like an alternate timeline version of some of the things that happened in Burning Crusade, but like different. Like whereas we're gonna have to fight the Burning Legion, in some form, but not exactly the same events that happen through the original TBC. So I think there's a lot of room for Blizzard to play with, but the only thing that they always have to be careful with, because like everyone always says it, time travel can be really, really messy sometimes, so Blizzard just needs to watch how they do it, but I don't know.
Yeah, they've said that this expansion leads directly into the next expansion, so they already know what the next expansion is going to be. That's why I lean towards the Burning Legion has to be at the end,
because we have
like
to,
them getting denied the orcs in this timeline is gonna have to have repercussions.
Yeah, we have to deal with them at some point too, because the lead is Sargeras. He runs the Burning Legion. They're the cause of all. They're the biggest antagonizing party in the entire World of Warcraft story. So at some point or another, we're gonna have to deal with Sargeras, because otherwise Blizzard's gonna have to deal with huge backlash not letting us kill him.
Well, that's also like you got to look on a line, like a line. There's still, don't forget orcs like Ner'zhul and stuff like that, who has the Shadow Moon clan, who's sworn to the pact with Kill Jaden and the Burning Legion, different things like that. There's instances specifically in the game for those guys, so you're bound to see some more stuff besides this whole Warlord mumbo jumbo. There's definitely going to be more stuff coming along.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. I think, like I said, Blizzard just has so much things to work with when it comes to the story, and I'll be following it through the whole way. Can't wait for the next books to come out, all that stuff. But as far as Raid Week Wednesday goes for us guys, for the first one, I think we did well. It was a little over 2 hours, and I enjoyed it. What do you guys think?
I enjoyed it a
Good
lot.
times. Yeah, I think we're going to end up doing a Raid Week Wednesday every week. It's not going to be 2 hours long every time, but we're just going to talk a little bit about, just raid questions, funny stories, all that good stuff. Then we're going to start doing Q&As. We're starting to do class-specific days,
Yep.
1 or 2 days a week as well. We'll probably cycle through each class per week. I think we're going to do a warrior one tomorrow.
Yep.
And then probably priests the next week.
Tomorrow's going to be Theorycraft Thursday with Indris, AJ, and Arundis. I believe he'll be coming a bit late. We may bring in some of the other guild members in here just to talk to them, see, maybe get some perspective on our class from an outside point of view, just for, extra insight on what we're going to do. But I think it's going to be heavily Q&A. Tomorrow's, you guys ask questions. We'll answer it. We're going to go over stat priorities. We're going to go over certain abilities, exactly like detail, down the entire list of what got revamped in the expansion, what we lost, what we gained, and we're going to go really big in there.
Etc., etc. So that's tomorrow. For everyone that has stuck through for these 2 hours, thank you. Throw us a follow if you enjoyed.
Yep.
If not, that's cool. I mean, no big deal.
NPD.
If you guys want to, if you guys can make it and you guys want to learn a bit more about Warrior, or if you guys are already Warriors and you want to learn more about your class to figure out how we can kind of get the most out of our class, it's going to be less of us teaching and more of a collective group discussion almost. So expect us to have you guys participate as much as you can in the conversation. Kind of want to get everyone in this because we can't know everything. We want everyone to kind of be able to contribute because, like I said, we don't know everything, but we're trying to.
That's the goal. All right, we've got a raid in 20 minutes. We got to get going.
Yep, we definitely have to get going, guys. Thank you again for showing up tonight, and tomorrow night.
Thank you, guys.
Again, throw us a follow if you want. If you're looking for a guild, man, come get at us at HashtagProgression.com.
Yep, hashtag
I'm gonna
progression.
say it without stuttering next time. HashtagProgression.com.
Yep, I'll put the link in the chat for you guys. Feel free to put in an application if you guys are interested. We're still looking for ranged DPS and healers for WoD right now for our Mythic group. Any exceptional player will be considered regardless of what openings we have. We've always got people that are flexible to switch to different classes and such. But as far as tomorrow night goes, be around. We're going to start at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, and we will see you guys later. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Peace.
That went well. That went really well.